From your phone charger to the lights, everyone has experienced the energy that coal provides. While the energy isn't highly debated, the use of coal to provide this energy is. So there are various differing perspectives on whether coal should be used or not. Some believe it should, and some believe it shouldn't. I've done a lot of research on this topic, and I've even learned a lot in my environmental science class. So through this, I've learned that there are two things that are undisputed when you're talking about coal. The mining of coal disrupts the surrounding land, and burning coal produces vast amounts of CO2. So the three issues that are talked about a lot regarding coal are its environmental effects, the human safety and health hazard it produces, and the economic and energy security. So one of the major things to talk about with coal is its effects on the environment. Supporters of coal tend to be split down the middle, either saying that coal does not affect the environment in any way, and that global warming is a hoax, so thus there's no evidence to prove this. On the other hand, some other supporters accept that coal does affect the environment somehow, but they propose clean coal as a way to prevent these hazardous effects. So Michael Caneos, who is a journalist with experience in the environmental field, argues that there are various clean coal technologies such as capturing all of the CO2 that can be produced in a power plant and burying it deep underground, or even putting scrubbers in the smokestacks of power plants that would capture the CO2 and limit what is actually released into the atmosphere. Opponents of coal start their argument by saying that clean coal is not a viable alternative. They argue that it's too expensive, it will take too long to make sure it actually works, and that it doesn't really work at all because it doesn't reduce the CO2 enough to make a difference. The article Coal from Opposing Viewpoints emphasizes the various environmental effects that coal can actually have, such as contaminating water sources with heavy metals, and then if animals drink this or even humans drink this, it can cause illnesses and even death. They also mention the vast amounts of CO2 that I mentioned that were produced earlier can cause global warming and ocean warming, which then can damage habitats. So when you talk about the environment, the health hazards often follow. The proponents of coal argue that there's enough legislation that coal doesn't provide very much of a health risk anymore. They use examples such as the Clean Air Act, which limits the amount of CO2 that power plants can legally put into the atmosphere. They argue that this has actually made the CO2 levels in the atmosphere level off, thus it's not as much of a problem anymore. They also argue that the process of mining coal has become a lot safer with its various regulations, and they use this statistic from the U.S. Department of Labor that there were only 9 deaths in 2016 versus 3,000 in 1907. So thus mining has become so much safer, and since that was a very big hazard for coal, it's now not as big of a problem. Opponents of coal argue that the other side minimizes the health risks too much. Barbara Gottlieb, who is a physician, argues that being anywhere near the production of coal, such as mining or even a power plant, can increase your risk of cancer, lung disease, heart disease, and even shorten your life expectancy. She attributes this to the large amounts of CO2 that can damage airways, the heavy metals in the water that again can cause cancer, and also the heavy metals that are then released into the air as well. While not everyone has experienced the environmental and health effects of coal, almost everyone has experienced the economic benefit and energy security it provides. Proponents of coal argue that since the U.S. sits on such large reserves of coal, we should take advantage of them and thus use that to boost our economy, and then we wouldn't be as reliant on foreign uses of energy such as oil or coal from other countries. Drew Clemente, who works at Homeland Security, argues that coal has been the cornerstone of our economy for so long that it's actually made the American way of life better and boosted our economy. And since we have so much more, we should keep using that coal that we sit on. Opponents of coal often tie their economic argument in with their environmental and health arguments as well. They say that when the environment is harmed, environmental remediation is needed, so you have to fix the problem. And with the health risks, people have to pay for whether they're getting chemo later in life because they live next to a mine, that someone has to pay for this, and normally it's taxpayers. So there's some kind of economic deficit when the people who are injured and the environment can't pay for itself, so somebody has to pay for it. In conclusion, the issue of coal is more complex than it seems at first. While both sides disagree on almost everything, they do agree that safety should be taken into account. So the three issues that I talked about today were the environmental effects of coal, the human safety and health hazards, and the economic benefit and energy security it provides. Without coal, you probably wouldn't be able to charge your phone or turn on a light, but this energy probably won't go away anytime soon. However, people will argue whether coal should still be used or not.